Chinua Achebe was a novelist from Nigeria. Aiming to share his culture to the world, he wanted a book that was able to portray the life of an African in the perspective of someone who has actually lived through it, in order to put misconceptions to rest. This resulted in the creation of a novel that has not only served as an educational source to audiences outside of Africa the about the intricacies of the African tribes' way of life and how they were affected by colonization, but also gained praise and acclaim for its influence in African modern literature. He named the book Things Fall Apart. The story begins in Umofia, one of the 9 villages of the Igbo tribe. In this village, there lived a man who was known for his strength and achievements. At the tender age of 18, he was able to defeat a warrior named Amalinze the Cat and has gathered more achievements since. His name was Okonkwo. Okonkwo was a prideful man. He had a fierce look and towered over people. He had a short temper and would use his fists to do the talking for him, as he had a stammer. He was an impatient man, especially with his father, Unoka. Unoka was described to be a lazy person, opting to have a go with the flow attitude, the opposite of Okonkwo. He was swimming in debt but remained carefree and happy while creating music. This type of life had consequences on his family, as he struggled to put food on the table. He had the same lifestyle until his death. He died having many debts and had no titles. Okonkwo despised his father and everything he did, and so he dedicated his life to ensuring that he shall never do the same mistakes his father did.
To ensure peace between the settlements, a young boy was sent to Umofia by the name of Ikemefuna. Okonkwo was tasked to look after the boy while his fate was being decided. For the 3 years, Ikemefuna stayed with Okonkwo and his family. He became close with Nwoye, Okonkwo's eldest son. Nwoye is considered by Okonkwo to be similar to his father and was harsh on him so he could change his ways. With Ikemefuna's arrival, Nwoye was more willing to take on tasks and was happier. Okonkwo also had a liking for Ikemefuna. But alas, Ikemefuna's fate was decided after 3 years by the elders of the 9 villages and the oracle that Ikemefuna must die. Okonkwo was advised not to take part in the killing of Ikemefuna, as he has treated him like a son. And so at night, Okonkwo brought Ikemefuna out with a group of men under the pretense that he were to be sent home to his mother and sister. The men slashed Ikemefuna with their machetes, but the final blow was done by Okonkwo. Ikemefuna's death drove a larger wedge between Okonkwo and Nwoye.
Okonkwo's anger cannot be contained, so much so that it ignores an honored tradition set by their tribe. The week of peace is done to honor and worship the goddess Ani. This is a week wherein no violence of any kind must be carried out. Okonkwo arrives home, seeing that his youngest wife, Ojugo, was not there, leaving their children unfed. Ojugo had gone out to have her hair plait. This angered Okonkwo, beating Ojugo heavily when she returned. This angered the other villagemen, as Okonkwo broke a sacred tradition and might have angered the goddess herself. Okonkwo was ordered to sacrifice one she-goat, one hen, a length of cloth, and 100 cowries to appease Ani. The funeral of Easy Udu, a clansman, was one filled with traditional rites and costumes. At its end, there was a final salute with guns and machetes, with Okonkwo having a part in the gun salute. However, disaster struck when the gun he held exploded. The shrapnel piercing Ezi Udu's teenage son in the chest, killing him. The penalty for an accidental killing? Exile from Omofia for 7 years. Okonkwo was forced to part with his wives and children, and his compound was burned to a crisp. For 7 years, he stayed with his mother's tribe, Mbanta. There, he planned his return, consisting of rebuilding his compound and initiating his sons to the Ozo society. However, fate seemed to have more plans for Okonkwo.
During Okonkwo's absence, white missionaries permeated through Umofia. The land and Okonkwo once knew began to shift in his absence. A new religion, Christianity, was introduced into the tribe. Churches and schools were built, and the tribespeople had the opportunity to learn more and find work outside of farming. While the first white missionary, Mr. Brown, tried to understand the customs and religions of Umofia, his successor, Reverend Smith, actively opposed it, considering Christianity as superior. Nwoye was one of the people who immersed themselves into this new religion and way of living, converting to Christianity and changing his name to Isaac. He began studying in a college for teachers by the time Okonkwo arrived back from exile.
Okonkwo's return was met with silence. His fellow tribesmen were too preoccupied with the new religion and government. His home has become unrecognizable to him. However, Okonkwo was different. He does not want to let go of their traditions and beliefs. So when the church was burned and the white missionaries were sent away due to a white man unmasking, Anegugu, he became happy and had hope that he would save his clansmen from these white missionaries. The district commissioner comes and invites Umofia's leaders, including Okonkwo, to share their grievances with them. However, it was a trap to punish them for burning the church down. They were tortured and fined, only released after the fine was paid. In the morning, the clansmen gathered around and was urged to fight against the white men by Okika. This meeting was interrupted by 5 messengers, who ordered them to stop. Okonkwo, driven by his anger and hate, struck a messenger with his machete. The place erupted into questions as why Okonkwo would do such a thing, and Okonkwo could feel that fear within his clansmen's voices, that he has realized that war was no longer an option, and he had let the other messengers escape.
The next day, the district commissioner and his men visit Okonkwo's compound, looking for him. Obirika and the others were already there and led the white men to Okonkwo's hanging body. They requested that they bring his body down, as someone who died by suicide cannot be buried by his fellow clansmen. Okonkwo's body was taken down by white soldiers. Okonkwo had refused to die by the hands of the white men, but in return, he has dishonored his traditions once more.